present time, we have experienced grappling with how to cope with the COVID-19, both personally and professionally. Taking time to know more about ourselves and having a self-awareness is very helpful to make use of and also manage the stress in these uncertain times. Although there are situations that is beyond our control, we realize that we can do something about it. We can control ourselves. This refers to our emotions, our mind or our thoughts, and our actions. Getting back control begins by recognizing our strengths, or what we call our power, that we can harness in order to adapt at the present time. Maaliwalas na araw to all of you. This is Ami Montaño, and I will be your host for this episode entitled Taking Trip to Self-Discovery. Our guest for this episode is Miss Ruby Manyala. She is a COO and co-founder of Immovation. Immovation is a proud affiliate of the Profiles Group of companies. Immovation is a mashup between emotions and innovation, the two most relevant competency now and in the future. She is dedicated to harness the much needed soft skills to create real behavioral changes. She is a Genos certified emotional intelligence practitioner. She has been in the field of people management for over 20 years in different capacities. She also worked in the US and garnered awards in her role in sales, training, and management of people. She is also a great believer that learning while living is the greatest teacher that one must embrace for life. Today, she will share with us about emotional intelligence, most especially the value of self-awareness. Let us all welcome Miss Ruby. Maaliwalas na araw, Miss Ruby!
Hi! Maaliwalas na araw sa iyo, Miss Ami, and sa lahat ng ating mga viewers.
Miss Ruby, kindly tell us more about emotional intelligence, especially the value of self-awareness.
Yes. I will start with emotional intelligence, the essential skill set for 2020 and beyond. I'd like to start with the quotation from Carl Jung, and he said, "Who looks outside dreams, but who looks inside awakens." I realized that in the moment today, in the pandemic, change is imperative. Maybe it's not only because of the pandemic, but the world has seen a lot of changes. And if we cannot go with these changes, we will not go with the world. However, looking back with what Carl Jung said, change starts from within. Because you see, no matter if the world changes, if the world goes back to the way it was before the pandemic, but your inside does not change, it will still view the world as it is. That is why self-awareness is very, very important and very critical. I like to start with saying self-awareness is the most important journey. It sometimes can be very painful, at the same time joyful. It's a lot of reflecting, a lot of introspection, but at the end of the day, this is the most important journey of all. Are you ready to go? Have you ever planned for a trip? What were the things you prepared? Questions you asked? Did you do any research? Let us say you're going to Paris for 2 weeks. Just think about that. But in all this, Did you ever venture into a personal roadmap, looking at who you are, your patterns, reactions, responses, behaviors, perceptions? Because you see, self awareness is a superpower. It truly gives us power, isn't it? Even before Aristotle, Socrates, Plato has been saying, they all have been saying, it is easier to conquer a nation than to conquer oneself. However, if you are aware of your triggers, if you are aware of how you react with your emotions and with your thinking, then you truly are a superhero. Once again, self awareness is a superpower. What is self awareness in terms of emotions? Well, self awareness in terms of emotions is knowing how your emotions can impact your decisions, can impact your behavior, can impact your performance, and how you interact with other people. What have you discovered about yourself? I've been living for the last how many years? And I'm not, I would say I've lived more than what most people have lived. And the journey to self awareness is the most painful, yet most wonderful, and most learnings that I have ever had in my entire life. And I'm sure, Ami, that you will agree with me. Have you defined your personality type? What's your personality like? Would you know? How about your communication style? How about your values? Triggers? What makes you sad? What makes you angry? What's your mission? Your vision? Have you defined your strengths and weaknesses? How about your feelings on a daily basis and how they impact the way you decide, the way you react, and the way you perform and behave? Did you know that the science of enhancing awareness really starts with the emotions? We have two kinds of brains, and this is the emotional brain and the rational brain. But Ami, would you know what reacts first?
Well, my answer is the emotional brain.
Yes, you are right. It is the emotional brain that reacts first on any thought or feeling that we have. And if we see it as not useful or as a threat, then the mind has this chance or perception to narrow and limit what it sees, so much so that we become disengaged and our decisions and behavior are narrowed and limited. If we see a situation or an event as a useful and as a reward, then our brain has the ability to broaden and build itself, that our decisions and our behavior becomes creative, lateral, and engaged. This is so true. This is not said by us, but by psychologists of positive psychology. So much so that what we are trying to say is we have to be aware of how we feel so that we can have that superpower of holding it back a bit before responding. Because what we want to do is by knowing what our triggers are, what our values are, what our judgments and perceptions are, is to come out with the best possible reaction or response for the best possible outcome. I'd like to give you an example of the quadrant of personality types, and this is called the DISC. I'm sure some of you, well, Ami, I'm sure that you are also familiar with this. The dominant type, who is self-confident, has a sense of urgency, is very task-oriented, competitive, and very practical. The influencer, who is very talkative, enthusiastic, persuasive, people-oriented, animated, and emotional. And we have the consensus or the compliant type who wants accuracy, is very serious, who's also very orderly, very sensitive, cautious, almost a perfectionist. While the steady personality type is very calm, supportive, reserved, agreeable, dependable, and procedural. But Ami, I'd like to tell you, this is on the good days. And what we would like to be in knowing ourselves, where we are in this quadrant, is to be able to define, okay, this is me on a good day, and I would like to be like this most of the time. But flexing our personality so that we can blend in and work well together with the other personality types. Because, I mean, this is what happens on a bad day. We become pushy, those who are in the dominant, impatient, domineering, a tendency to attack, be tough and harsh. While the influential can be disorganized, vain, manipulative, excitable, reactive, and undisciplined. The conscientious and the compliant type have the tendency to be overly analytical, so picky, stuffy, critical, judgmental, and defensive, while the calm and steady becomes unsure, wishy-washy, awkward, possessive, confirming, and insecure. These are on our bad days, whichever personality type you fall. That's why knowing oneself will make you recognize these things. And once you recognize, okay, I'm not acting in my best possible version of myself, then that should come up with a habit of stopping right then and there and going back to our best self. It's not 100%, it's not perfect, but the ability to bounce back and come back to our normal state of functioning with our very best self comes in a few minutes rather than a few days, a few months, or maybe even a few years. So, in knowing oneself, I would also like to say that we began with a quotation from Carl Jung, who said, "The one who looks outside dreams, but the one who looks inside awakens." Truly, the journey of self awareness is very, very important because if we are not aware of what's inside us, there can be no change. And change is imperative. Change is imperative because the world will not change for you. But if you change inside, then you can change the world one step at a time. So, Miss Amy, I would like to end with self awareness and the journey with another quote, and this time by Rumi. Yesterday, I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today, I am wise, so I am changing myself. Miss Amy, thank you so much for this opportunity to listen to a short bit of what self awareness means. Again, it is a superpower that you can unlock. Have a great journey.
Thank you, Mr. B, for sharing your expertise. To our viewers, how was your journey? Did you discover your superpower or your strength? Indeed, learning more about ourselves or becoming more self aware is an early step in creating the life that we want. It helps us to pinpoint what are the passion and emotions and how our personality can help us in our life. Once we are aware of our thoughts, our feelings, emotions, and behavior, we will be able to make changes in the direction of our future. The question is, what actions should we take? Allow me to share with you 4 ways to cultivate our self-awareness. Are you ready? Okay, let's start with the first one. My tip for you is to perform daily reflection. So what does it mean? We need to connect to ourselves daily We need to allot at least 15 minutes of the time. And then, that's for each day. We just, look for a place, a quiet place, where we can think. The second one is practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is a good strategy. So how to do it? So we practice our breathing. So we do inhale, exhale. And while we do that, while we do the breathing exercise, we need to pay attention on what is our thoughts, what is our feelings, as well as the actions that we've been doing lately. So while we also do that, it can be done while seated, or we can be mindfully doing it by walking, eating, and even listening. Okay, so do you want to hear some more? Okay, so the third one is to keep a journal. We are guided by this journal, and this journal is very helpful because it provides us awareness. When we process our thoughts. So when you write it down, it processes our thoughts. So what are the things that you can write? Okay, first is, what is your strength that help you cope with your daily, life? Second, you can also record your thoughts, your feelings, like how are you? Describe it. Do you feel sad? Do you feel happy? Or any emotion that you have at that time. As well as, what are the things that you've been doing? You can indicate helpful activities like maybe, visiting a friend or connecting with friends like this through online. And then you can also write, what are you grateful for the day? So this will help you get an idea of who you are, as well as what you want of life right now. You can also indicate your plans, like what was the thing that it comes to your mind. So writing it down allows you to become aware of maybe new goals or new dreams that you have that you wish to pursue. And lastly, it's important to gain a different perspective. When we say a different perspective, you may connect with your support system. So who are the support system? These are your friends or family members. You get their feedback. What kind of feedback? Well, inform them that you would like to know more about yourself, so you seek feedback that can help you. Allow you to understand, to understand both your strengths and areas for weakness. So it gives you an objective assessment of yourself. Okay? So thank you for joining us today. Maaliwalas na araw to all of you. And I look forward seeing you in our next episode. Goodbye, stay safe, and God bless.